The holidays are meant to be a time for families to come together and celebrate. But for one family, holiday cheer quickly turned into fear. Just days before Christmas, 19-year-old Kristine Larson went missing and was later found murdered in the backseat of her burnt car. Today, her parents are here, opening up in a daytime exclusive about the daughter they lost. Who killed Kristine Larson? Joining me now is Kristine's mother, Deborah, and her stepfather, Daniel. Thank you for being here. I know this is very difficult.
Thank you.
Tell me about your daughter.
Oh, Kristine was the life of a party. That's what her friends would explain her as, the actual spark in everyone's world. She would get people together at the last minute, and they knew that they were in for a good time when it came to her, as far as celebration and just including everybody. She was a very inclusive person.
No, most definitely, yeah.
Christmas time was her favorite time of year. When did you begin to suspect that something was off, something wasn't right?
Well, given the fact that it had been on I believe it was the 17th, was the first night that she had taken Darian to see his real father overnight by himself. And we thought, this is good. This is a step in the right direction. They were broke up, but yet, Zachary was going to be involved in the family. He's the father to their young son. And about mid-afternoon that afternoon, I had called him to see how things were going. And he said everything was fine, that, the plans for her picking Darian up that next day were all figured out. And I felt okay with that. And so Kristine then, did her thing with her friends that night, took a little time to herself, like a, young mother with raising her son on her own would do. And the next day, I had seen her at about 1:45 in the afternoon, and I made sure I told her, you got to make sure you're here tonight, because we've got to make your little Merry Christmas candies. You've been holding off on this, and it's time to buckle down. You know what the holidays mean in our family. And she said, I promise, I'll definitely be there. I'm going to drop my friend off at work, and I'm going to go pick up Darian.
Yeah.
Well, it was about 2:30, and I had called just to make sure with Zachary that Kristine was on her way. And he said, you know what? I haven't seen her. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So then I think it was probably about 45 minutes after that I text you, and I said, Zachary's saying he didn't see Kristine, or he doesn't know what's going on with
Exactly.
her.
So then that's when we last really heard anything what was going on.
Yeah.
As far as where she was. We just expected her home by 4.
Yeah.
When she didn't show up at 4 o'clock, what were your thoughts?
Well, because I had called him or texted him every 45 minutes, our thoughts were, oh my gosh, she ran out of gas somewhere. She has no way to get a hold of us, because she would always run her car on empty, just like most young teen drivers will do. And we just kind of dismissed it that, she'll show up, she'll be there. So then at about, I think it was probably 5:30 or 6 o'clock, I started getting real, concerned, like mother's intuition kicked in. I was turning into Mama Bear, and I called her friend at her job, the one that she had dropped off, and I said, you know what Kristine's been up to the last couple days. Where is she? What is going on? Is Darian staying an extra night with Zachary? Why all of a sudden this cold path? We have no idea where she is. And her friend said, no, the plan was she was picking up Darian and bringing him right back to you guys.
Yeah.
So, each time, like I said, that I contacted Zachary, that I texted him, that I called him, he would have some type of a reply from me. No, she just isn't here yet.
Yeah.
And then you read or hear on the news that there's a car fire, and your heart drops.
Oh, absolutely.
It had been a few hours since, we haven't heard from Kristine. And on the news, I see this story about a car that is on fire, and they found a body, a young woman in there. Wasn't thinking about us. And I looked at my wife and I said, I really feel sorry for that family. What the time of the year, to lose somebody.
Yeah.
And I felt sorry for them.
Yeah, we both
turned out to be us.
Yeah, we both were like, oh, that poor family. Christmas is just 6 days away. We went to bed, and at 4:10 a.m., there was just hard pounding, knocking on the door. And I rolled over and I looked at Dan and I said, "That's the police. This is going to be our answer about Kristine. And can you go get the door? Because I need to get dressed." So.
You knew that it was your daughter.
I had an idea, yeah. Kristine was always one to let us know exactly where she was, what she was doing, where she was going. If she got into a situation, she wouldn't hesitate to call and say, "You know what, I'm a little turned around, my timeline is off, I know I'll be there."
So now it's 4:10 in the morning, you're awakened and in shock, I'm sure. What was Zachary's response, the father of their son?
Oh boy, he was very emotional. I actually went to go pick him up to make sure him and Darian had a place to be. He was just devastated. I mean, he was crying, asking what could have happened, and got him back to our house.
So at that time, what do you think happened? Who would have done this to your daughter?
Well, that was
No
it
idea.
exactly. We really believed that anybody that knew her would never do such a thing to her. We just couldn't, think of anything else other than the fact that it was a stranger-related thing.
Yeah.
Up next, Daniel and Deb received shocking information. Would it point to Kristine's killer? That is next. The body of 19-year-old Kristine Larson was found, strangled to death and burned in the backseat of her car just days before Christmas. Her family had no idea who wanted Kristine dead, but police were able to zero in on someone no one would have ever suspected using forensic technology. Take a look.
We were trying to figure with their daughter's killer.
The police finally searched Zachary's home and found substantial evidence that linked him to Kristine's crime scene. There was a shoelace that matched the one used to strangle Kristine. Kristine's blood stain on the wall was there and it appeared to have been wiped clean. And there was a phone book that matched burned pages found in Kristine's car. We are back with Kristine's parents, Deborah and Daniel. So at this point, the police are now warning you. Actually, what did they tell you about what they just had discovered?
I think it was like the second day that he lived with us after everything happened was the day that they really put down the hardcore warning, don't let him leave your home, which we had no plans of doing anyway. And just, keep a diligent eye on him. And, he is definitely a person of interest.
But what about the other side of that? First of all, did you think he was guilty?
I did not want to believe that at all.
I had my inklings shortly after he came in. He was very fixated on starting his new job the day after everything happened. Want to go back to his apartment and grab some shoes. And I expressed this to Sergeant Zimmerman, or Detective Zimmerman at the time. And he said, just keep him where you're at. He doesn't have to worry about his job right now.
So you mentioned the police wanting you to keep him close by, but I'm thinking the opposite right now, maybe the audience is as well, which is you've got a killer in the house with you, maybe.
Maybe.
Were you fearful at all?
I'm not gonna say I was fearful.
He was vigilant. I mean, he stayed awake. And
But as far as the fear aspect of it, I felt that he might have done this, but you can't be 100% sure. This was a young man who was like a son to me. He was family, plain and simple. It just felt like he was family.
So on Christmas Eve, Zachary Matthews was arrested for Kristine's murder and eventually sentenced to life in prison without parole. Has he ever confessed to either of you in private?
With me on the phone, when I've spoken to him a few occasions, it was always, I didn't do it. And I didn't want to talk to him about that, but I didn't do it. The last conversation I had with him about 1.5 years ago was, that wasn't me that did it. And I work with mental health. I have patients that I work with every day. And to hear him say, all of a sudden, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, to me that was like a confession. Saying that, maybe it wasn't me at the time. Mm-hmm. So that's as far as we've gotten with that.
Deb, what would have compelled Zachary to kill your daughter?
I truly believe that he went into what is called a blackout rage. I think, knowing their volatile past that was just newly discovered to us when we moved her back home, I thought to myself, you know, there's no way he did this. But then in the time he was with us, you know, he was showing his anxiety and concern for how people were going to find things out about him.
Is he a mentally sound person?
No, definitely not. I know that he has been diagnosed as schizophrenic and a sociopath, and now even as of late, multiple personalities. Given the fact that this young man, growing up in this horrible, horrible foster system in Michigan, you know, he was a mess. He was a mess. Some
But
of the
that's not an
stories he
excuse
told.
for
Yeah.
what had been done.
It's an explanation for Zachary's actions. It's not an excuse.
With all that said, how do you feel about the fact he murdered your daughter? Are you angry with him?
I'm disappointed. I don't think I've ever been angry. When I was looking for pictures for the show, I found some of my old journals, and I read through some of them, and I've never been angry with him. We forgave him the day he was sentenced. You know, you forgive the sinner, but not the sin. And to know somebody is so mentally ill and beyond making conscientious decisions, you really have to be empathetic.
Well, how have you been able to cope with all this, especially around the holidays? And I'm respectful of your thoughts about mental health, and I've learned a lot about domestic abuse and how devastating it is and how we don't feel safe. A lot of times people in those relationships don't feel safe to talk to law enforcement about it even.
No, they don't. And as for how we gear up for the holidays, it's definitely different. You know, it's not the over bubbly, happy, jovial, you know, we're missing an important piece of that puzzle. You get a 5,000 piece puzzle, you have one piece left. Do you figure it's complete? No, you don't. You know, it's hard, but we get through it, you know.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.